Hello, Miss Ambassador. Happy to meet you and to discuss with you one of the most important topics of nowadays. This is globalization, and we live in a globalized world. It's an undeniable fact, and it's inevitable to speak about it. What do you think? What kind of positive impact globalization has brought to humanity?
I think it is the idea of progress, the idea that the world is connected and that this gives opportunities to both the economies, the companies that can reach out to other countries, but it is also on the side of the consumers that they can have a broader variety of goods and services to get. So this, I think, it is naturally a sort of competition. It can be a challenge for the internal market, but in the end, I think the idea is to really open up and to offer more opportunities.
Yes, for instance, many developing countries fear that increased globalization may lead to loss of control on economic and political decision-making process in their countries. What's your recommendation? How can these countries survive both politically and economically to be independent?
You're totally right. It is a great concern that it affects the wages, that it affects, let's say, the functioning of the domestic economy. So what is needed is, let's say, the rules of the game, yeah? Means to create the conditions that this doesn't affect, let's say, the wages of the domestic market. And therefore, there are several instruments. We in the European Union, I think we profited from globalized trade, but naturally we put up certain measures in order to protect also our companies and our consumers. So what are we doing? We are having bilateral agreements with our partners on trade. I think this sets a framework. Secondly, naturally, we try to protect companies from unfair competition, what you call anti-dumping rules. I think this is very important. And I think most important is that we have an organization, the World Trade Organization, setting the rules. So all EU member states are members of the WTO, and the Commission negotiates for them. If we all stick to the rules and we don't try to have an unfair competition, we can win from a more globalized trade and also a globalization of minds, because this I consider to be a very important element.
I wanted to ask also what the EU would like to share with the world from its experience, from its own experience, because as we know, the EU is one of the most successful examples of deep integration, which is a tiny model of globalization, let's say, and I already heard your opinion. Thank you for that. For example, globalization may positively impact culture as well by creating chance of cross-cultural communication. However, there are concerns that globalization may put small countries like Armenia at the risk of undermining its national identity, culture, traditions, and different aspects of culture. How do you think? Do you agree with this?
You see, everybody speaks about the danger of globalization, although I see the deglobalization and also geopolitical policy right now more as a threat. Yeah, the question is, as I said, you need the rules of the game. In the European Union, we are convinced that we can enrich each other. Yeah. And we say unity in diversity, so means we respect the cultural traditions of each of the member states, and together we have a more colorful, a more vibrant cultural environment, and we learn from each other. I think this is something which we can do. And I would say we have some of the small member states who have quite a strong cultural identity. So it is not so much the question, is a country big or small? It is more the question of a certain pride, the underlining of your own cultural identity, and also to express it and to compare it with others. I don't think that you would lose your cultural identity. I think you could more win if we open up. But naturally, the fact that there is, let's say, an unfair competition, or your market suddenly gets spread with products you don't want, therefore we have anti-dumping rules, and this is very important. I think today, as I said before, it is more globalization of minds, really bringing together networks in different areas that can help to progress the own country. And this is the positive element. And we will come back to different, let's say, grades. Right now we have the COP26 summit. First we were so enthusiastic to really have strawberries from South Africa together with bananas from another region. I think with the climate change and the necessity to really find measures, we will go more on regional products. So we will have in certain areas the possibility that a globalized world brings us all an advantage, and that you can have certain products. But for example, I think in the European Union right now, in this COVID period, there was only one, or not even one, product that was not produced in cooperation with one of the member states. So it is more the interaction that counts. And on other hand, we have to find new ideas how to reduce the CO2 emission, and therefore, for example, certain methods of transport get more and more difficult. So we will have to be clever. We have to work together in the positive sense of a globalization, because this is a global problem. We can only tackle it globally. It's the same like with COVID. Yeah? We have this worldwide pandemic, and we will only overcome it if we work together. Protection of the own market, for example, I think is not the right way. The way is to have a reasonable approach, to have, let's say, the WTO who is looking after the rules, and then to have a good use for the benefit of the own country.
It's quite interesting to your opinion, and I totally agree with you. We can discuss both positive and negative impacts of globalization, but I agree that we need to work together. We discuss globalization in a global context, but I think that it first and foremost influence on a human mindset, and somehow changes his or her perception of the world. And I would like to ask you, what kind of influence has it brought to you during your diplomatic career, and what are your learnings?
Mm-hmm. Well, I learned that it is really important that we have cooperation with international organizations, but also bilateral relations with other countries. I'm open to everything new, and every new posting I had, I saw as a possibility to discover a new world and to add a little bit layer of knowledge and also of personal experience, which made me the person I'm today. You need to be open, and then perhaps you even value your own background, yeah? That if you see a difference in another culture, you learn what you like about your own. When I entered the diplomatic service, I knew that I want to work internationally, that I want to work with other people, and this in a positive way is, I think, something that connects all of us. And I'm very proud that the European Union attaches so much attention to the direct neighbors. You see, when you see the idea of the Eastern Partnership, it is really that we reach out to our neighbors and want to extend our cooperation politically but also economically. And in the same time, we want to foster a regional cooperation among the Eastern Partnership countries. And this is also valid in other areas of the world. So I think these are elements that have to come together, and this makes an added value for all of us.
For example, any events related to Eastern Partnership, young European ambassadors from different countries came across, introduced with each other, and it is a kind of opportunity to get in touch with their cultures and their political or economic systems.
This makes your life richer, it brings you networks, and I think this is what you need. And this also Armenia needs. Armenia needs to be self-confident and to reach out. You have one added value. You have this fantastic diaspora all over the world. And there are people who are attached to your country. And this is an asset, but to really make it happen, there you have globalization in a small scale.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Ambassador. I hope we will have another chance to discuss.
We will definitely have. Thank you so much.